Hello, welcome. This is Teaching Writing in High School. Goodbye to three-letter programs. My name is Ellen Finnigan. I'm the founder of Teach to the Text. I have my BA in English from Boston College, my MFA in Creative Writing from the University of Montana, and I've been working as a writing coach off and on in one form or another since 2008. I am a published writer and I worked at St. John Bosco for a year outside of Atlanta, a hybrid school, before going to Colby Academy Online and spending 9 years in their high school English and literature department. I started Teach to the Text in 2022. I like to say I was teaching online before it was cool because a lot of other people started during 2020, but I was doing it a long time before then. So I hope to share with you today just some thoughts I have on what students should be doing in high school as far as writing goes, what their goals could be, and where you want to get them by the time they leave. There's a lot of courses out there, online schools, curriculum. There's lots of different ways that homeschoolers can slice and dice things. And so I want to show you kind of a way that you can think about their path so you can select what's right for them. Through Teach the Text, I do offer some writing classes that have been, over the years, proven to be very effective. And so I want to share some of what I know with you and some of my offerings. But whether or not you decide to become a customer at Teach the Text, I hope this is valuable information for you. So think of your decision making process when it comes to high school writing as a Venn diagram that is bejeweled and bedazzled and gold, just because it's fun. All right, so up on the left, we have the parent, and that's Socrates that is looking at the parent because Socrates says, know thyself. So, to know what to pick for your student in high school as a homeschooling parent, you have to know yourself. Then you also have to know your child. There's your child. And then you have to know the three things that every student needs to grow as a writer. Again, this is just my opinion from personal experience. There's always more than one way to skin a cat. And if other people have other ways of doing it, that's totally fine. I'm just giving you my thoughts based on my experience. Let's start with you, the parent. Are you an enthusiast? I love to write and I know how to teach writing, and my children love it when I critique their work. Okay, if you are a five, write that down. Write down, I'm a five, I'm an enthusiast. You probably won't write that down though, because I've literally never met a homeschooling parent who would say that. But if that's you, that's awesome. Number four would be the writer. You get 4 points. I love to write, but I don't know how to teach it. Or I try to teach it, but my kids hate it when I give them feedback. I hear this one a lot from parents who they're like, I feel like I know good writing, but I don't know how to explain it. Or when I do, my kids get mad. Number three, the scribbler. I'm oh, sorry. Sorry for the typo. I'm an okay writer, but I'm not confident when it comes to teaching. It's not really my thing. Number two, I would call a supporter. I'm just not a very confident writer, and so it's not like I don't really want to mess with it. It's not my thing. Number two, I call a bystander. Not my thing at all. I'm a science girl. I'm a math person. I want nothing to do with this. Please, someone else take over for me. So think about which one you are and go ahead and write it down. You also have to know your homeschool style.
Oppan Gangnam Style.
All right, sorry. I just every time I I hear homeschool style, I think of that song. Um the school marm is not a very it's usually used as like a derogatory sense, but I have no I'm going to call number 5 a school marm because I have nothing but respect for these usually women, but sometimes men. These are the women I meet who are like 50, they're like in their 50s and they still have kids in high school and they've been homeschooling since they were like 25, and they're awesome and they're very hands-on, they're very experienced, they're usually very rogue, and they have this way of educating like 8 kids in one household on like $50 a year. And they just have it that dialed in, right? So I love the school marms. They generally don't come to me very much because they've already got their stuff figured out. But if you are a school marm, respect. Number four, I call the teacher. This is the homeschooling parent who likes to teach. They want to teach their own kids, but they appreciate a little bit of professional development. Like they could use a little help and they're open to getting help. I call number three the tutor. So this is the parent who doesn't really want to teach their kids. directly, but they're there helping them understand, sometimes hovering. It's okay. It's okay. You're a helicopter parent. It's okay. No, I'm just kidding. You're a tutor. You're there to help, but you don't really want to teach. Supervisor, I'd say, is the parents I've encountered that they're in charge. They're picking out the classes. They're picking out the curriculum. They're the one making the decisions, but they're not doing the sit down at the table and teach and tutor their kids. And then number one, I would call the outsourcer. That's like, hey, let's enroll in a school, brick and mortar, or an online school, or some school with a principal who's going to have teachers and they're going to pick the curriculum. And I just have to pay the money and enroll my kid, and they're going to take care of everything. There is absolutely no judgment on anyone who decides to homeschool in any of these ways. I think they're all great. It just depends on your family, your situation, your temperament, your style, all that stuff. So these are just kind of general categories of homeschoolers that I've encountered. Students are often, I have a lot of bookworms in my classes. I love the bookworms. They love to read, they love to write. They will do this stuff in their free time because they love it so much. The achiever, students that maybe like English and literature isn't their favorite subject, but they're going to get that A and they're showing up for it. And I love those students. Along for the ride, I love these students too. These are the super agreeable students that maybe aren't as conscientious and enthusiastic as the bookworms and the achievers, but they're there. They show up for it. They enjoy it. But they might have other things that they like just as much. It's not necessarily their favorite thing, but they're there. The minimalists, I love these students because they're a challenge. These are the students that will just want to check the box, and move on. And I want to get those minimalists along for the ride. That's my challenge as a teacher. They're going to show up, they're going to do the minimum that's required, but if I can get them invested and interested, I've done my job and I get a feather in my cap. Poof means these students have better things to do. They may show up at class, they may not. They may turn in their work, they may not. These students are often very interested in something else like horses or robotics or hanging out with their friends and having fun. Love these students too, love to have them in my classes. But it's good to know where is your student. And sometimes they're a bookworm in English, but there has better things to do in science. It just kind of depends on what their interests are. But you have to know your student to know what's going to be best for them in high school. Okay, here are the three things that students need. And so put all that aside about you and your homeschool style and your student. Just set it aside for now and we'll come back to it. There are three things that students need to grow as writers in high school. Okay, so I'm hoping I can finish this before this file gets too big. They need to be taught, they need to be coached, and they need to be held accountable. So, writing is a skill, kind of like piano. There are certain things they need to know, like where is a C and where is a D, and how to read a sheet of music. They need to know those things, but then they need to go to practice with their teacher, and they need to do it while their teacher is watching, and their teacher needs to kind of coach them, right? And then at some point, they need to be held accountable. Maybe that's a piano recital. For soccer, instead of going to practice where they're getting coached, they play a game. For Gangnam Style, maybe
Op, op, op,
I play my
Opern
video game
Gangnam
and I liked it.
Style.
But yeah, Gangnam Style, if you're going to learn a dance, you're going to learn the dance, but then you got to practice to get really good. And then maybe you go to a competition. So writing is a skill. I think the three-letter programs are really great at teaching students what they need to know about writing. I think they're not so good at coaching. Um, and they don't always hold kids accountable for what they've learned. Holding kids accountable for what they've learned is very difficult because students go from teacher to teacher to teacher, and every teacher is teaching different things and different classes and different assignments. They're always moving around when it comes to writing and trying a lot of different things, which is great. But at a certain point, you need to focus on the skills that are really most critical for high school. And those are usually skills that are easy to learn, but difficult to master. So if you keep moving on to all different kinds of writing, the student's not they're gonna learn a lot, but they're not getting the practice they need and they're unlikely to master the skills that they need for college or just for life. So I always get nervous when I see a writing curriculum that's like, we're going to do all these writing stuff this year. And I'm like, no, don't learn to do all the things. Like, pick the thing that's most important and do that over and over and over. That's the way that I taught writing in high school. Um, so what I noticed with my students who were doing, ooh, excuse me, um, these three-letter programs is a certain plateau effect in high school. So they would kind of be writing at a middle school level, and they would just kind of like stay there. It was hard to get them to the next level. And sometimes I thought that what they were being taught in these programs was like not what they needed for high school. And in a lot of writing programs. And I knew this because I was a literature teacher and a writing teacher, and they were taught separately. And I could see I was doing all this work in the writing class with my composition students, and they were the same students in my literature classes. But in my literature classes, they weren't growing as writers. And so I was like, all this work I'm doing in composition is not transferring over to their literature essays. So there's something that's like missing in translation here. Um, so if you're always moving on to this curriculum and doing new things, you don't get the coaching, and it's hard to hold students accountable for what they've learned because they're skipping around and learning all this different stuff. So consider in ninth and 10th grade that maybe your student should just be doing persuasive essays. So usually in middle school, they learn how to write a paragraph, they learn how to write an essay, and they get pretty good at expository writing. What you don't want to do is continue assigning them expository writing in high school. It's too babyish. If most high school students are ready to move on from that, you've got to challenge them with a persuasive essay. But in terms of all this other stuff we often have them do in high school, I'm not sure it's really worth it until they've mastered the persuasive essay. There's something in the classical education world called stages of learning. So the grammar stage is grammar school. It's where you learn grammar. You learn the rules of the language, where to put a period, subjects and verbs, predicates and whatever, all that stuff. And that goes nicely with expository writing, book reports. Write an essay on the book you just read, and you expect them to describe the book, give you information about the book, who are the main characters, summarize the plot. They're not really being expected to analyze the book or have an opinion. They're just telling you about it, right? And that's great for like middle school, for like fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh grade. Then they're going to move into the logic phase, which is when instead of writing one sentence, they're writing multiple sentences, which means they have multiple thoughts and they're figuring out the relationship between those ideas. That's when they start writing paragraphs, and that's when they start writing essays. That's also when they start asking questions and questioning everything and using their mind, which can kind of, I'm sure, be kind of annoying for parents, but it shows that there's an active mind there. They're thinking critically about things. They're not just describing what they see, but they're asking, why is it like that? So this is the argumentative stage, and this is where they should be by ninth grade. And this is what they really need for college prep. The next stage of learning is called the rhetoric stage, and that's when you're not focusing as much on argumentation and logic, but the quality of your expression. The idea being that you can have a perfectly grammatically correct paper and it can be perfectly logical, but if it's perfectly boring, no one's ever going to listen to you. So, this is about making something compelling and interesting. And this is where creative writing comes in. Um, I think that that's great if your student can get to that stage in high school, but I would caution you against doing any of that stuff before they've perfected the skills at the logic stage. Um, so think about it this way, writing is just thinking, right? So these three-letter programs, I kind of put it in a cloud because what it seems to me, just from feedback I've gotten over the years, is that students in those programs will often say, I know what to do, I know how to do it, I just don't know what to say. And I think that's one of the big pitfalls of these programs is that there's not enough thinking going on. And so the writing is placed before the thinking. So what you want to do when your student gets into high school is you want to get them thinking so they have ideas and something to say, right? And that comes from reading great books. So I think that's why my literature classes, my literature students would grow as writers in leaps and bounds throughout the year, whereas my composition students who were just like writing in a vacuum never really grew that much. So writing is not just thinking, but it's critical thinking. So questioning, synthesizing, evaluating, observing, interpreting, relating, inferring, analyzing, all these things that they do when they read great literature and have to write about it, they're exercising those. It's kind of like going to those soccer drills, right? Soccer practice. Like you're dribbling and shooting and passing and dribbling and shooting and passing and you're getting faster and stronger and quicker reflexes and you're building the muscle memory. That's what you're doing in literature classes when you're combining writing with literature or even history or theology. So that's really what you might want to consider in high school is that writing doesn't have to be this separate subject. It can be blended in with their humanities courses. Because this is the third time I'm recording this, and I don't have enough time, and it's going too long. I'm going to skip over this part, but suffice to say that great literature. If you want your students to have insight in their papers, you have to give them something to see into. And great literature has a depth to it. It gives them something to look into and therefore something to write about. So, high school English language arts could look like this. You have to teach them a certain amount. They need to be taught how to, in my opinion, write a good persuasive argumentative essay. And then they read great writing, and then they get a writing prompt and they write a paper, and they get some coaching, and then they get held accountable for what they're supposed to demonstrate. And they're working toward mastery. And then they're going to read more, get a prompt, write, coaching, and then held accountable. So, see what's happening here is that the emphasis is taken off teaching them anything about writing. You teach them certain things that are really critical to know, and then you let them practice and practice and practice because those skills are easy to learn but difficult to master. So the emphasis is not on let's learn this, all this different writing stuff. It's like let's just learn these core skills and then let's work on them and work on them and work on them and develop your critical thinking skills, which will make you a better writer and a better thinker and a better human being. All right, so what can I offer? I do have a class called the 5 day essay that teaches students how to write an argumentative, persuasive essay. And I'd say you want to start doing that around seventh grade. Once they can do an expository essay, defining, informing, describing, and the other one, explaining. Once they can do that, you move on to argumentative. And that then you can apply what you learn in the 5 day essay and just have them practice that a lot. Once they get to ninth grade, I like to throw in another class for them. So you can do the 5 day essay, which is always good, even for high schoolers, because high schoolers need a review of the fundamentals. But I also have another class called 6 Steps to Textual Support that will help them with those analytical skills and bringing evidence into their papers, which also, by the way, makes it a lot harder for them to use AI when you demand that of them. So these two things are the things that I offer if you are not a good teacher of writing. I think these classes do a great job of laying that foundation and that the groundwork for their high school career. What they learn in these two classes is really honestly like enough for high school. Ooh, happy balloons. Um, it's great if they can move beyond that, but it usually takes students a year or two to master the skills by doing the cycle. Um, from ninth to 12th grade. Oh, I also have a class. If you're wondering, well, who's going to do the coaching and who's going to do the grading? Why not you? I have a class called How to Assign and Grade High School Essays. So I can teach your student what to do. You would pick out the books, you give them the writing prompts and give them the papers, and then you can coach them and you can grade them. I would recommend, and this is all included in my Level Up Your Writing for High School bundle, these three classes, two for the student, one for the parent. I would recommend this for the enthusiast, the writer, or the teacher. If you fall into one of those, I think you would love this course because you're a hands on teacher. You want to be the one teaching your kid. You love to write. You just need to know a little bit about how to teach writing and how to go about it. And I think I can help you. No guarantees, but I think I can help you to learn how to coach and grade your student in a way that will not drive them crazy. So these are some of the questions. I'm not going to read it because I'm trying to get through this presentation quickly. You can pause the screen. These are some of the questions that I cover in how to assign and grade high school essays. So that's what that class is about, answering all those questions that you might be a great writer and you might love editing and critiquing work, but you don't know how to assign it in such a way that will work for your student. So that's what that class is about. Um, I also have a 10-day camp. So this is really perfect for the scribbler, the supporter, and the supervisor. Um, and it could work for the bystander and the outsourcer as well. But this is, I'm going to teach your student what they need to know, and then I'm going to coach them. So they get a personal writing coach. It's not you, it's me. And they get to do 10 assignments, practicing the skills that I taught them, and I'm going to coach them and give them feedback along the way. What I don't do here is hold them accountable. So they will go off into the world with you into the rest of their homeschool journey, and it's going to be hard to know if they're really doing what I taught them, and it'll be hard to hold them accountable. But that's where the level up course comes in. You can hold them accountable if you learn all that. But I have so many students who love this class, and accountability doesn't always need to be there. They get that little bit of coaching, they learn it, and then they can go off and apply it in their future papers. And this is also a great way to get to know me as a teacher. If you're thinking about signing up for my year-long classes, students who take my 10-day camp can apply the cost of the camp to my year-long course. So it's a huge benefit. It means that you're not really out the money, but this allows you to get your feet wet and see what it might be like to be in one of my writing classes. Um, what we have here is an illustration of the 10-day camp. This screen is getting kind of crazy. But basically, what you see is I'm going to teach them what they need to learn. Instead of the big pile of books, they have a little scrap because I just give them a passage to analyze. We're not reading any big literary works or anything. I'll give them the prompt, I'll have them do the writing, and they have 10 assignments where they're going to get the coaching from me to make sure they're getting it. All right. So then I also offer a writing coaching course that's just coaching. So if you're a parent and you're like, I want to pick the reading, I want to pick the writing prompts, we have our own thing going on over here. I don't know what you have going on over there. It doesn't matter. I will be there to help coach. Um, I can just do that if you're just looking for that. And then I also have a paper checkup service. So if your student has gone through the 10-day camp or level up your writing, but you kind of want to come back and just check in from time to time and be like, how are they doing? Like, how would you grade this? This is my scoring service, but I don't usually do it for people unless they've been through my classes. Because, like I said, I need to know what the student has been taught and what has been expected of them so I could hold them to my standard. It's hard for me to score things if I didn't teach the student. And sometimes I think those scoring services can just be really impersonal and kind of like, I don't know, not as helpful for the student. Um, so the other thing that I would offer for high school is if you're looking for like you want to do the coaching and the grading and all the writing stuff, but you would like that literature piece to be filled in. You want them to read great stuff, but like you don't want to have to read the great stuff. I get it. Epic poetry, especially, is a lot to read. So I have my own independent studies. So Let's Read the Iliad. I will soon have Let's Read the Odyssey. These are basically me teaching your kid the literature, teaching your student the literature. So they're reading the book, they have lectures, they have quizzes, and they have a study guide that was written by me that will help them engage with the text. It will provoke great critical thinking. It has writing prompts. So they can go through that with me so you don't have to read it with them. And then you can do the writing. So when they do write, you can pick out which writing prompts from the study guide you want to do or you want to have them do. And you can do the coaching and you can do the grading of the work. Um, then here is the one where my face is everywhere, which is my epic class. It's called Ancient Greek Literature and Advanced Composition right now, but next year it's going to change. The name is going to be Ancient Literature 1 and Ancient Literature 2, Intermediate and Advanced Composition. But this is where I do everything. I'm going to teach your kid what they need to know. I'm going to do the teaching. I'm going to assign them the great reading that I think. I'm going to give them my study guides. I'm going to pick the prompts. I'm going to have them write. I will do the coaching and I will do the part of keeping them accountable. So I'm doing all of this, and this is my premium offering. But it really is a fantastic class, and it allows me to do everything that I do best as a teacher. So this is obviously good for the outsourcers and the bystanders and the people who are like, I don't want anything to do with language arts. Maybe you would consider this class. It's good for all students, except maybe has better things to do. Um, Students that just don't always show up for class or don't like to do all their work, I love them. They're very challenging, but they might find this course a bit much. If they don't really love school and they don't really love writing and reading, this might not be perfect for them. But you can always reach out to me and tell me more about your student or tell me more about your situation, your homeschool style. And I would be more than happy to give you advice. And it doesn't matter if you're my client or my customer, I'm happy to help you and give you my thoughts on your student and what might work. So, in summary, I hope that this gives you some important takeaways. Um, I'm happy I can introduce you to some of my services, but I'm hoping that you're seeing that as part of the bigger picture, of the different parts of what goes into helping a child to grow as a writer. And now you can use that information to kind of piece together what you need. Do you need a coach? Um, do you need your kid to be held accountable? Is your kid a check the box kind of kid? If so, you probably need someone to help hold him accountable, or you need to hold him accountable. If your student is really behind and they haven't really learned much about writing, your emphasis needs to be on what they need to be taught. And students who have done a lot of these three-letter programs may not need to be taught that much, but they might need the coaching and they might need to be held accountable because they're not used to that. So I hope you have a better idea of the general scope of what a student could be or should be learning in high school, the benefits of not doing too much writing in terms of curriculum and courses, like maybe just integrate it and blend it in with your humanities and really focus on that analytical writing. I think it's plenty for a student to have a goal of writing convincing, persuasive essays that incorporate good analysis and show critical thinking. If they're doing that over and over and over, it's okay because they're developing those skills through that practice and through that repetition. And I think that you can do it. I'm happy to help you do it, whichever pieces of this you want to do. Or if you don't want to do it, call me because it's what I love to do. So I hope that this was informative for you. And don't forget to
어리는 선어해
yeah,
근육보다 사상이 울퉁불퉁한
sorry.
선어해 그런 선어해
It's been a long day. Have a great day, and I hope to see you at some time in the future. Take care.